Welcome back to the sports show with no name. We're your hosts. We have names. I'm Chad. That's Ben. Ben, what's going on, man?
Nothing much.
How you been, buddy? It's
Just
been a while.
has been.
Yeah.
Has
What you
been.
been up to? Anything good?
Nothing much. Coaching baseball,
Yeah.
watching
Yeah.
sports.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some good sports on NBA playoffs.
There are.
I'll admit the NBA playoffs have gotten a little boring to me. I mean, maybe it's because the Cavs are eliminated, or maybe it's just because there's really no star power left right now. I mean, there aren't a lot of huge names. I mean,
No,
there
but I do
are, but
think
there aren't.
there are.
There's no
Yeah.
Steph, there's no LeBron, there's no KD, there's no, I don't know, there's no
No, but I
Draymond to keep things not loose, but I mean, to keep things
keep
whatever
things
he keeps
exciting.
things. Yeah, exciting, I guess. Yeah,
Dude,
not loose.
I no, but
Tight,
I
maybe, but
definitely do.
yeah.
Yeah, I definitely do think though that there are some like future superstars. Anthony Edwards. I mean, dude's 22. He's one of the best players in the league. That dude's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, that dude is. How the Timberwolves went from being so bad to so good really quickly is incredible.
I know. It's hard to turn around
I
like
mean,
that, but they've done it.
It is. I mean, while we're on top of NBA basketball, what's your thoughts on the Cavs firing JB Bickerstaff?
Oof, yeah. I mean, I think we saw it coming, right? You saw it coming. Let me ask you this: Could the Cavs have done anything to save Bickerstaff's job short of winning an NBA title? Was he out of here no matter what this season?
I don't think so.
No. Okay.
If he would have been able to manage this team to a Eastern Conference Finals with all the injuries we've had, I think he saves his job because then you're like, okay, look, we were injured, we were down Jared Allen, we're down Donovan Mitchell. If we go into next year healthy, we're just coming off the Eastern Conference Finals, we got a shot at the NBA Finals, right?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I get
But
that. I see it.
I mean, I'm not saying the injuries are his fault, right? But
Right.
I don't know if you heard the story about what happened between Kobe Altman and JB Bickerstaff. Now, don't quote me on this, could be wrong, but there was a story about apparently how Kobe Altman went down to the Cavs locker room complaining about Donovan Mitchell's playing time.
Okay.
And for the next 4 games, Donovan Mitchell sat with a non-injury related issue. But Donovan Mitchell was okay with his playing time. So it makes me think that JB Bickerstaff benched Donovan Mitchell to show Kobe Altman, like, hey, I don't need him to win games. And I'm pretty sure the Cavs are 0-4.
Interesting.
I could be wrong.
If that happened, allegedly, yeah, that's interesting.
I mean, there's a situation like that with soccer too. I mean, if you guys watch Come On Ref, I'm a huge soccer fan. The Columbus Crew's head coach used to coach the Montreal Impact. Had their best season ever, won 20 games. They lost in like a late regular season game to like the worst team in the league, but he was resting like all of his best players for playoffs.
Yeah.
And the owner comes down and just gets into like an argument with him in the locker room. Like cuss words are being thrown, everything like that. And after they lose in the playoffs, he gets fired and comes to Columbus.
Not a great look, right? I mean,
no.
You got to wonder, like, what's that working environment like? So, I mean, is it contentious because of the relationship between Kobe Altman and JB Bickerstaff? Is it contentious because Kobe Altman is looking for that power? Is it contentious because Bickerstaff was looking for that power? I mean, it makes you wonder, does that come from both sides, one side? I don't know.
I don't know, but then I've also heard reports that Donovan Mitchell wasn't a huge fan of JB Bickerstaff.
Okay. Yeah.
So, like I told my dad, I said, with us firing JB Bickerstaff makes me think that the Cavs are committed to Donovan Mitchell. Because
they better be able to sign him now, right? If that's the case. Yeah.
If you're not committed to Donovan Mitchell, you'd be okay with keeping Bickerstaff, getting rid of Mitchell, and building around Garland, Mobley, and your other whoever else, whoever else you have. But I mean, with Donovan Mitchell, I mean, that's an elite level superstar. Like that's the guy that you don't want to just let walk.
Yeah. I mean, if he stays, Garland has to go, right?
Here's the thing, though. I don't think so.
No? Okay.
Because my dad told me this yesterday. So the stats show that when all 4 of them, like when 4 of them are playing, when one of them's out, the other 3 play better. But when their winning percentage without one of the 4 is like 55% or something like that.
Okay.
But when all four of those guys play, they only played 24 games together. Their winning percentage is 67%.
Okay.
So it shows that when they all four play together and they're all healthy,
Well,
they
I
win some
mean, that's
games.
fine. Those numbers are it's compelling, but I mean, the regular season is so different, right, from the
It
postseason in
is.
the NBA.
No, I agree. I agree. It is.
And I'm concerned. I think the Cavs go like what 6'1", 6'4", 6'5" in the starting backfield. Or backfield. Wow, in the starting backcourt. Not the backfield because we're not talking about football. But yeah, for some reason that concerns me. I don't know if it like maybe that cut it in like the early '90s, but man, like why do the Cavs? Let me ask you this. This is a question that's been like kind of burning me for a while, really, since LeBron left. Why do the Cavs seem to avoid like the 6'7", 6'8" wing guy that can score, knock down some threes, even like spread the floor a little bit, maybe run the point in an absolute emergency. Like if you need a guy, there aren't many 6'8" point guards. Okay. Not many guys are going to be Luka, but I mean,
LeBron.
if you've got a guy that can handle the ball a little bit when he needs to, play some defense, just if nothing else, be some length and some size on the perimeter. Why do the Cavs avoid these guys? I mean, there's not a shortage of them in the league. They're out there.
There's not. I mean, to be honest, I don't know if I really have an answer for you because I don't watch basketball like that. I mean, this would be a perfect. This would be a perfect thing for Aiden Vance. Shout out our boy Aiden Vance.
Absolutely, yeah. I want to get him on the show soon. Yeah, to talk about this exactly.
Like you said, the Cavs went on that run where they won like 17 of 19, right?
Yeah.
And Donovan Mitchell was playing your one. He's not a traditional one.
Yeah.
Not a traditional one, but like you said, he's that taller wing that can shoot and play a little bit of defense.
He had some size there, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you're the Cavs, getting into NBA draft, I think the Cavs should take a chance on Bronny James.
Okay.
He's only 6'3", right? But he's that athletic wing that can handle the ball if he needs to. He can shoot. Yeah. He can play some defense.
Yeah. I mean his strength is supposedly defensively. I mean, right? That was his strength.
Yeah. He's not going to start over Darius Garland. I can promise you that.
No.
Right?
No.
But
no, Garland's a superstar.
But him off the bench, like when Garland needs that break, you bring him in next to Donovan Mitchell. Like if you want to say, hey Donovan, go get us some buckets, right? You can throw Bronny at the one and be like, hey, bring the ball up for us, handle the ball.
Well, can Bronny run the offense though? Can he do that?
I mean, I think he can. I mean, his father's LeBron James, one of the best.
I heard he was good.
Yeah, I mean,
he could play a little bit.
Yes, yeah,
he has some rec league local fame, right? Yeah, yeah.
I mean, yes, I mean, obviously Bronny doesn't get all of LeBron's athletical abilities, but
it never works that way. Yeah,
I can promise you this: LeBron's one of the smartest NBA players ever.
Yeah,
I can promise you his sons are going to be smart as well. They're going to know how to run an offense. They're going to pick up an offense. They're going to know all these little kinks to an offense.
You would think that they would at least be quick learners. I mean, they've been around the game their whole lives at a very, very high level. I mean, you would at least think that it would happen, slowly enough for them that they could process it quickly enough to learn it fast.
Yeah, and I mean, but going back to your question of why can't the Cavs get these 6'8" guys? I think a big part of it was because when you're trying to rebuild, you're looking for guys that can help you win now.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times with those 6'8" guys, you're taking a chance because if they don't work out at point guard, then you're like, well, now what do we do?
Yeah. Yeah, that does become hard to find a position for him. I mean, I guess. But that's why I like him at the 3. I think that it's so versatile. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, LeBron said it best. I mean, LeBron was point guard in high school.
Yeah.
At 6'8".
Right.
And he's playing the 3.
And did a great job of it in high school. I mean, here's what I think. Okay, now let me ask you this. You say the Cavs should take a chance on Bronny James. I don't know that I necessarily agree, disagree. I'm just sort of up in the air. I think I keep saying this, and I could be totally wrong. But I think he could be one of those guys that ends up being a better NBA player than he was a college player. Obviously, didn't have a great college career, but he was also coming off a major cardiac event, right? Yeah. Like, let's not act like that had nothing to do with it. I'm sure at some point, at some point he was probably a little bit afraid to maybe let it go, to really get in. And I don't know. I mean, I have no idea what mentally that does to you.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
I just think it played a part. But that being said, it's neither here nor there. If the Cavs do take a chance on a guy like Bronny James in the draft, take him in the second round, whatever it is, does that give them an inside track to get LeBron James back here?
Well,
or is that even a thing? Does he care about that?
If you asked me a couple months ago, I would have said yes.
Okay.
But now I'm seeing reports that LeBron doesn't care about playing with Bronny, and his whole goal is to win another championship.
Okay.
So
listen, I think LeBron could be good on a Cavs team that's constructed the way they are.
I agree with you. But the thing is if LeBron comes to the Cavs, who do you get rid of?
Listen,
is it Garland? I think
if Donovan Mitchell stays, I think Garland has to go anyway. I think they're too similar. I think they're both guys that need the ball in their hand to thrive. And you can't have two guys on the floor with the ball in their hand at the same time, and you can't afford to not start one of those guys, right?
Well, I mean, you know, from Come On Ref, I'm looking at the complete opposite way as you, right? If you get LeBron, I think you could get away with not starting. Well, okay, I'm going to say this. You can't not start Donovan Mitchell. Dude's an elite level player.
Yeah.
But I think you could bring Darius Garland off the bench as your sixth man.
He's still going to play into what position, though? Where would you bring him in?
Probably at the one. I mean, he's a point guard.
Okay.
He's a point guard. guard.
That's fine. But I just didn't know. I don't know if you bring him in as a shooting guard. So who runs this offense? Who is it? LeBron bringing the ball up the floor?
LeBron bringing the ball up the floor, but you still need a point guard.
Okay.
Like, look at LeBron.
But then you still have the problem of having Donovan Mitchell, who needs the ball in his hand to score, right? I just don't I don't know what to do with this team because I think they're built weird in the post too. They've got Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, right? And they're kind of similar. Like they want Evan Mobley to develop into this dynamic post player. I don't think he can necessarily do it with Jared Allen on the roster. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, and
I just feel like Allen's holding him back a little bit. Not that Allen's a bad guy or anything like that. It's just developmental wise.
Yeah. No, and I agree. And I tell everybody, I said this Cavs team failed because you have two centers that are the exact same play style. I was like, in today's NBA, I was like, if you're going to run two centers, one of them needs to be a lights out 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
Look at Minnesota.
Yep.
You have two centers.
It's going to have to be almost like a 3-4 hybrid guy, but at 6'10", 6'11",
Yeah.
And that's common today. You have that.
And, I told people, I said, if I'm the Cavs and you want to keep Garland and Mitchell, you have to get rid of one of your big men, and it's not going to be Evan Mobley.
No.
You took
him with Jared Allen. Jared Allen's out.
Overall pick.
I think Allen's out, and I think Garland's out. As long as Donovan Mitchell, if Donovan Mitchell signs long term here, I think the most likely players that are gone, I think, are Jared Allen and Darius Garland. I don't know who you bring in. Again, this is another question. If we ever have Aiden on the show, we will have Aiden on the show at some point. But when we have him on, this is a question for him because it's a nightmare to try to make rosters and trades work in the NBA for me. It just doesn't work with my brain for some reason.
I want to ask you this:
money match, it's impossible.
Yeah. I want to ask you this though. There's rumors that Paul George wants out of LA or he's going to test free agency. You get rid of Garland and Allen. What about Paul George's three?
I mean, it's been rumored here before, right? He was rumored here before when LeBron was here.
He's not a ball dominant player. He's that 3-and-D guy. He can shoot. He can play some defense.
That's the guy. That's the kind of guy the Cavs need.
You can move Mobley to the 5.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. Playing the 4 and playing the 5 in the NBA is completely different.
Yeah.
Why do you think Anthony Davis likes to play the 4 instead of the 5?
Oh, yeah.
Because sometimes you're guarding as a point guard. Sometimes or as the power forward, sometimes you're guarding or sometimes you get switched onto the 1 in like a pick and roll situation.
Yeah.
And for Anthony Davis, that's a mismatch. He's just going to back him down to the post and just hit him with a little fadeaway.
Yeah.
Whereas a 5, most of the time you're on their 5 the entire game, and you get beat up, you get hammered, you get slammed.
Yeah.
And people call Anthony
Davis. It sounds like the lose-lose when you're just as you're describing it. It sounds like a tough situation.
But people call Anthony Davis soft for it. But I 100% agree with them. Why not play the 4 and try and preserve your body?
No, I get it.
He's already a cupcake anyways.
Yeah, you're already up and down on a hardwood floor. I mean, people don't realize the wear and tear. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I mean, I don't see a problem with it. Yeah, preserve your body. I know we all get mad when we hear load management. For some reason, that's like one of those like buzzwords. It's like people get so mad when they hear load management or pitch count or whatever. It's like one of these things that like makes people really mad. But it's different. It's not like it was in the 50s. Yeah, these guys were making like $40,000 a year to play in the 50s. I mean, now they're making millions and millions and millions of. That's a huge, huge investment. Of course, these franchises are going to protect these guys, right?
So the NBA just signed like they're close to signing a new TV deal worth a bunch of money, like $7 billion or something like that.
Another new TV deal, yeah.
And there's talks that Luka could then sign like a 5-year, $395 million deal.
Yeah,
That's
I mean the max
absurd.
deals, just the mid-level deals that are going to come out of this TV deal are going to be wild.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
wild.
you want to talk about some guys getting paid? Naz Reid, when this new TV deal hits, some team's going to take a chance on him and pay him the absolute bag.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's wild because a guy can hit a couple threes and pick up a couple of steals for you and maybe rebound a few times a game. I mean, guys are going to get, like you said, 3-4 year contracts worth $200 million. I mean, that's wild.
Mm-hmm.
Good for them, man. Good for them.
And,
I have no problem with it.
I got a hypothetical question for you. I mean, feel free to answer in the comments too. I was watching some basketball with my family last night. My dad, my brother, his girlfriend. If you put Michael Jordan in today's NBA, how many points per game is he averaging?
Okay, so I do have thoughts on this both ways because guys are a little bit bigger and stronger, right? But you can't hand check anymore.
Exactly. That's my point. You don't have the bad
I think
boy
Jordan
Pistons.
is scoring at will in today's NBA.
Oh, for sure.
I think he scored at will in yesteryear's NBA. I mean,
yeah, but Jordan with his work ethic, just like Kobe, he's going to develop a 3-point shot.
Yep.
Back then, he
would have figured out a way to thrive.
Yeah. Back then, you didn't need one.
Right.
But if you put Jordan in today's game, when you can't touch people, and you can travel as much as you want. My dad said, imagine Jordan palming the ball. He would have taken like 4 steps from half court and dunked it.
I mean, yeah. I mean, with impunity, right? No calls against Jordan. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have the bad boy Pistons, clothesline you every time you go for a layup.
Right. Right.
And I tell people, I said, I think Draymond Green played basketball in the wrong era.
Yeah. He would have fit in back with the Knicks and the Pistons of that era, man. Yeah, Charles Oakley with the Knicks, and I mean, yeah,
he's literally like a Dennis Rodman.
Yep.
He's short, get your rebounds, physical, gonna talk shit to you.
Yeah, he's a controversial. Yeah, he's a controversy lightning rod. I mean, he takes all that. We've talked about how sometimes it's good for some rosters to have that guy as long as they can handle it. I think
exactly.
Draymond sometimes like he basks in it a little bit too much, right? Like he's maybe a little bit too into that role. But yeah, when you have that guy who can take that controversy and kind of, put it into output, basketball or football or whatever it is, whatever sport, that's good, right? It's great for the roster. But like I said, Draymond sometimes I think maybe gets a little bit too wrapped up in that life. It's just a little bit too comfortable for him. But that's okay. Yeah. That's okay. Whatever.
If you're the Cavs, here's another question for you. If you're the Cavs, do you go with a young, inexperienced head coach, or do you go with a older, experienced head coach?
See, this is I don't know. And I was just going to ask you, where do the Cavs turn at head coach from here, right? I know that I think I heard some people, and I know Dan Gilbert and Rick Pitino have a history, have a friendship, have at least I don't know, an acquaintanceship. I don't know what they have. I know that there's history there.
It didn't work out the first time.
It's not going to. No, I don't think Rick Pitino is going to work at all as an NBA coach. That's what I was going to say. I don't think that's a good fit at all.
No, I don't either.
I don't know where they turn. I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I've heard Kenny.
What's Stephen Vogt doing? I mean, he's doing a great job with the Guardians. Can he handle the Cavs too? I mean, catchers can do anything, man. I mean, he'd be fine, right? He'd be fine.
I mean, okay. I mean, perfect segue. I mean, just want to talk about NFL draft now. I mean, we're talking about. I mean, we can head. Obviously, I know this answer, but the most shocking pick in the draft, I think, has to be the Atlanta Falcons at 8, right? What are you doing?
I don't know. Listen, I've had people try to explain this pick to me, and I've
there's no explaining. It doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense. I've heard every point of view, and I understand people's points of view. But here's my thing. You pick him now. He's 24 years old, right? He had a 15,000-year college career, right? He's been in college since the Roman Empire. He's 24 years old. If things go well with the guy, Kirk Cousins, who, by the way, you signed to a 4-year, $180 million contract, right? Like, you don't want it to go south with him in year 2 and then like throw Penix in there and be like, hey, this is our starter now. It's our first round pick. Remember? That's not what you want, right? Like, and something that you said to me, and this is my point too. This is my exact thought during the draft, and I'll get to it in a minute. But yeah, you've got this guy who won't, if things go well with the free agency, right? With Kirk Cousins, Penix won't see the field until he's 28 years old. That's shocking to me. The 8th pick overall won't see the field in the NFL until he's 28 years old, which is not the Brandon Whedon situation where they picked him at 22 and he was already 28 years old, right? I mean,
Yeah.
this guy's going to sit for 4 years. They're wasting 4 years of his athletic prime when they had Kirk Cousins, and they could have picked a backup quarterback in 2 or 3 seasons, right, and groomed him to be a starter. Or they could have done this in 2 or 3 years and had a guy, maybe a 22-year-old, sit for a year and start at 23, 24. They could have made their defense so much better. They had an impact pick right there at 8 with a starting quarterback, with a top-line starting quarterback. I know Kirk Cousins isn't Tom Brady. I know that. But he's a $180 million quarterback in the NFL. I mean, that puts him, he's a top 10 guy, right? Like,
Yep.
Statistically speaking, I mean, Kirk Cousins should be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. He has been. It was likely they're going to get a couple of good years out of him at least. I don't understand why you don't do something with that impact pick right there to make your defense better, or to I don't understand. I don't get that pick at all. And I've tried to process it, but I can't. I can't make it make sense to me. I don't get it.
So wait, so did the Chargers pick before the Falcons or after? It was after, right, or before?
They picked before because they took Alt. Remember?
Yeah, that's okay. Because
Yeah.
I was gonna say if the Chargers didn't take Alt and they would have went a different direction, I said I think Alt would have been if you're in Atlanta with Raheem Morris, I get your defensive guy, but in today's game you need offense. You need a dynamic offense. And if you go and you get a guy like Joe Alt, or even if you get an offensive tackle,
Brock Bowers would have made more sense there.
exactly.
I mean,
Like get a guy that can change the game on the offensive side of the football. Instead, you go with a backup quarterback.
Or I mean, a dynamic pass rusher. I mean, something that makes a difference in today's game, right? Like they had a chance to get that.
Yep.
They passed up on that, and we'll see how it works out. Maybe it'll work out. Maybe I'll. And listen, if I'm wrong, I'll eat my words. I don't care if I'm wrong. I mean, it's fine. I'm wrong. My opinion. I don't know everything, but to me, I wouldn't have even taken that risk on a video game. Like,
no,
that was a wild. It's a wild risk the Falcons took, and I'm not sure I understand it. But hey, it's their pick. There was another shocking pick not too long after, and I guess it soaked in after a while. I understood that it could be a possibility, but man, I never saw JJ McCarthy as a first round pick during this college football season. Did you?
I didn't see him as a first round pick, but when you got a guy that completes over 70% of his passes and wins a national title in the way he did it, I mean, clearly the dude's a winner.
Yeah.
Do I think he's going to be an elite level quarterback in the NFL? Time will tell.
Yeah.
But
time will tell. Listen, he seems like a great guy. I don't mean to, I'm not personally bashing him. I don't care that he's from Michigan. I don't care. You know, I don't try to do bias like that. I'll make some jokes every now and again, but I try not to do biased, views like that. I just, I watched Michigan during the year. I watched him 5 or 6 or 7 times, and I saw a lot of JJ McCarthy, and I thought he was a late second round, early third round pick. I thought maybe he could be a guy who, if he gets in the right situation as a backup and gets maybe 8 or 10 starts, could go out and win you 6 or 7 games in the NFL, because he's got that kind of like, he's got that level of competitiveness. It seems like he kind of turns it on to the next, like he can kind of flip the switch a little bit. But then you find out Michigan's possibly been cheating and stealing signs, and maybe they know what's coming offensively, and maybe they know what's coming defensively, and all of a sudden it makes that, at one point, JJ McCarthy looked like John Elway, Tom Brady, Joe Montana combined. He was completing like 84% of his passes on third and longer than 8. And it's like, my goodness, like this guy's a gamer. But like when you really boil it down, if they did truly know what was coming, if they truly knew what defenses were being called, and they knew obviously where the gap was going to be in whatever, if it's a zone, if it's a blitz, if it's whatever it is, it suddenly makes that look a little less impressive. And then Ben, maybe it's an amazing coincidence, but where that percentage started to go down? And that game against Purdue. Remember, everything came out right before they played Purdue, and it's not like Purdue came in at 9-0 and number 1 in the country. I mean, Purdue was pretty down right last year.
Yeah,
and Purdue completely shut Michigan down. And you can say maybe they were distracted by all the reports, whatever. But man, they didn't look the same on the field that they had looked. And I give them the credit. They beat all the teams. They won a national title. I don't know if they, I doubt they cheated after they were, exposed for it. They still won the national title. They still beat some really good teams down the stretch. You have to give them credit there. But it just makes JJ McCarthy's whole body of work a little bit suspect. And I hate that for him because he's a good kid. But that's where we are, I think.
I just think that, like you said, I think if he's put in the right situation, he could win you some games.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say Minnesota's the right situation.
It's not terrible. They've got a decent offensive line, and they've got some receivers. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
That's what I was gonna say. I mean, you have one of the best receivers in the league in Justin Jefferson, right?
Yeah,
But
maybe the best.
yeah, maybe the best. But what is JJ McCarthy best at? Handing the football off. Who's your running back?
Yeah. And listen, you're not
Sorry,
going to
I had
be. He's
to.
not going to be able to make those same throws in the NFL. Those short to intermediate throws. I mean, he may be really accurate on those, but you've got a tighter window. Things happen a lot faster in the NFL.
Yeah, no, they do. I agree.
I just don't think he has a big enough arm. I don't know. Maybe not.
But I want to get your thoughts on what's your thoughts on the Browns picks?
I mean, I think I don't mean to dismiss anyone, but I think the first two picks are the only ones that really like. This Browns roster is so deep. I mean, no one besides Hall and Zinter are going to make this roster, right? I don't think. I mean,
probably not, unless it's just for depth.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, maybe
unless somebody comes out like completely impresses in OTAs or something like that. But
listen, maybe the one guy that could would be Jamari Thrash, because I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know how the new kickoff rules are. I don't know how that's going to look, right? Like, maybe they're looking at Thrash. Thrash is a guy who's like really, really fast in short bursts and can kind of get by. Maybe he's good in kickoff returns. I mean, maybe he becomes a guy he's not overly huge. He's not like a big guy. I know we've said that maybe they'll use bigger guys now for the kickoff return because of the way that the rules have changed or whatever. Thrash is a guy who could, I guess, see some time on special teams, and I don't know anything. I'd be lying to you if I said I knew anything about Nathaniel Watson, Miles Harden from South Dakota, or Jawan Briggs. I really don't know. I know Briggs is a pretty high character guy. It's a position of need, defensive tackle for the Browns. I just don't know. I mean, wow, a 7th round pick. I just don't know if he's going to be able to make the roster. I don't know if he's going to be able to make an impact. But yeah, Michael Hall Jr. from Ohio State, Zach Zinter from Michigan. I think those are the two we can really concentrate on, right?
For sure, yeah.
I love them. I love the picks. I think, again, defensive tackles in areas of concern for the Browns. And they need a guy who could, maybe get a little penetration. He's not going to be right away anyway. He's not going to be a 3-down guy. But I think Hall can get you some penetration from the defensive tackle spot and maybe even get after the quarterback a little bit here and there.
No, I agree. I agree. I
high motor guy.
I mean, like you said, I think the Browns went with their needs in their first 2 picks because you don't have a 1st round pick.
Yeah.
So you went with a defensive tackle.
Yep.
And you went with Zach Zinter. But I haven't heard, is Zinter going to be ready for the season?
Yeah, he should be ready to go.
Okay.
Luckily for him, it was just, broken legs or, broken bones in his leg. There was no ligament damage. There was nothing. There was no soft tissue damage. So he should be ready to go. I would imagine by OTAs that he should be up on his feet, moving around and playing some actual
That's
football.
What I thought. That's what I thought. But, I mean, like you said, I think all the rest of the guys are just for depth pieces going into the offseason. I mean, if somebody goes down, you got some backups.
Yeah, maybe a guy or two you keep on your practice squad. I'm not sure what the practice squad even looks like, to be honest with you. But
me neither.
I like. Here's what I think. I think the Browns' analytical department was working overtime here, right? You bring in these 2 guys who have, the history of the rivalry, but they also have the kind of close, intimate bond now that they have, because Hall was actually the one who was thrown into Zinter's leg during that Ohio State-Michigan game to break Zinter's. I don't know if you know that or not, but
I saw that clip. Yeah,
Hall was the guy to do it, and obviously not his fault. I mean, no animosity. It was a Michigan player who shoved him into Zinter's leg. I mean, there was no intent there. Clearly, it's just something freak that happens in the trenches. I mean, these guys are literally giving their body to the game every single play, right?
Yeah.
It happens. They know that, and it's a definite possibility. He just got rolled up. I mean, he's got pushed into his leg. But now they have this close bond because they talked on the offseason, right? So here's the Browns analytical department. Let's bring in 2 guys that already know each other. I think that kind of helps. That kind of helps, I don't know, just sort of, with, I guess, creating, like, building some rapport, right, with your new teammates.
Oh, for sure.
I just think that kind of helps a little bit. They've already got a history. They've played together. They played against each other. They know what each other are about. They may get the opportunity to go against each other and practice a little bit. I think that, that's all positive for the Browns. I think that's really smart, actually.
Sure.
I don't think it was an accident.
No. I mean, you guys will get to know me. I'm a Steelers fan. Have been my whole life. I just want to recap the Steelers draft.
Yeah.
A lot of people thought, we were going to go, corner or receiver at 1.
Yeah.
I actually like going offensive tackle because you have Broderick Jones, who you got last year, that dude's a stud. And then you get don't have to pronounce his last name, but he's the offensive tackle from Washington. And if your whole goal is to get back to the running game with Arthur Smith, Fautanu, with Arthur Smith, you need a great offensive line, right? You have one great tackle. If you can get another one, you have a decent interior offensive line. The only other thing you need is a decent center, and you went out and you got Zach Frazier from West Virginia.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, not a shocking first 2 picks at all for the Steelers. If you follow the Steelers, I mean, they're about interior depth. I mean, it's not surprising.
And everybody's like, well, who are you going to throw the ball to? I mean, you have George Pickens, who's proven to be one of the best receivers in the NFL.
Yeah.
And can make some crazy acrobat catches.
Yeah.
But then you go out and you get a guy like Roman Wilson, who he's not bad by all means.
No, he made some big plays at Michigan. I mean,
he did. He got drafted, made some huge plays.
Yep.
And I mean, in Arthur Smith, if you go back and look at Arthur Smith's offenses, you don't need elite talent on the outside. When he was in Tennessee, I mean, yes, he got lucky with Derrick Henry in Tennessee, right? His quarterback was Ryan Tannehill, and he had A.J. Brown for like 2 years, and they were the number 1 seed in the NFL.
Yep.
And they had a great offensive line.
Yep.
And on top of all that, if you look at the Steelers, if you want to do that, if all these picks turn out and you have a even above average offensive line, if you're middle of the pack or better, you still have a top defense in this league.
Yeah.
You have a top defense with arguably the best pass rusher in the NFL, if not the best, in TJ Watt. You still have Cam Hayward. You also signed Patrick Queen. You got Joey Porter Jr.
I forgot about that, honestly. And I think that's the reason they didn't feel compelled to take a defender until pick number 98 or whatever. I mean,
Yeah, and I actually really like the Peyton Wilson pick.
Yeah.
Because Sean Holcomb has a torn ACL, MCL, and PCL. He's out for this year. Won't be back. So you need a guy that can fly around and make tackles. That's Peyton Wilson. He did it at NC State, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to pair him next to Patrick Queen, who's one of the best linebackers in the league. I mean, what a guy to learn from.
Right.
I mean,
and for some reason, Mike Tomlin just has a knack for getting the most out of guys like that. I think I keep saying it, and it's annoying. But listen, the Steelers have a nightmare schedule. I mean, the schedule's a nightmare, right?
Oh, it is. It's atrocious.
It's a nightmare.
Out of your final 8 games, you play 6 AFC North opponents. You go Browns, Bengals, Browns.
It's wild.
And then you got to play the Chiefs on Christmas. You got to play the Ravens in there somewhere. You got to play the Eagles.
The Eagles are in there, yeah.
That's
wild. That's wild. I mean, it's wild.
That 8-game stretch. If Mike Tomlin can go 5-3 or 4-4, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Now, do I think we're beating the Chiefs on
Christmas? No, Ben, he'll be the guy to start off. I'm saying this all the time. I mean, the Steelers are like the only team I know of that can start off 1-5, 1-6, and you're like, yeah, they're probably gonna make the playoffs.
Right.
I mean, it's annoying, man. Like kudos to them. It's awesome for Mike Tomlin and for the organization, but it's like, come on, man. Like the Browns could start 14-0, and I'd be like, they'll find a way to blow it. They're not going to win the division. You know what I mean? But the Steelers you look up at the Steelers are like 1-4, and you're like, oh, they're fine. They're going to finish 10-7, get in the playoffs. No big deal. I mean, it. It's wild. It's wild.
Like we talked about it last year, the Steelers were sitting pretty, right?
Yeah.
In playoff contention. Kenny Pickett goes out, you bring in Mitch Trubisky. You're like, okay, it can't get much worse, right? Lose 3 in a row. Then the gut decision for Mike Tomlin to say, hey, look, this isn't working. Let's bring in Mason Rudolph, a guy who hasn't played in a game in nearly 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hey, it was the right decision. Led us to the playoffs, played incredible football.
Yeah.
And I've told my Steelers friends this. I wanted Mason Rudolph to be our starting quarterback this year.
Okay.
Because of what he showed last year. I think he deserved it.
Yeah.
But
now they have a whole mess back there. I don't know what they're going to do.
But when you get a guy who's a Super Bowl winning quarterback and a former MVP in Russell Wilson, who last year didn't have a bad season, just didn't get along with the head coach.
Yeah.
And you bring him to Pittsburgh with a head coach who gets along with just about everybody.
You got to be a little concerned about his health, though, in that division, because he doesn't move real well anymore. He doesn't move as well as he used to. And you still got to play Myles Garrett twice, right?
You do. But here's the thing, though. If he gets hurt, you basically have a young Russell Wilson in Justin Fields.
Yeah.
You can
What's
move
with
a whole lot
speaking
better.
of Justin Fields, let's just talk about what have you seen all the reports that are coming out of like the Bears? Are they just trying to save face right now? Like the
No,
Bears saying like Justin Fields was toxic there. He didn't get along with the offensive coordinator, didn't get along with the other quarterbacks. Like, is any of that true? I mean, he didn't show any of those kind of traits at Ohio State.
Here's the thing. I think it's because when you draft a quarterback that high and he's not winning, you want to blame him and not the front office.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
you think that's just one of those smoke screens? Like the NFL is just a
It
league of
is.
smoke screens, right? Like it's
because
just yeah.
I mean, did you hear the other reports that apparently Caleb Williams isn't playing well in OTAs?
No, I didn't.
Apparently he's not playing well in OTAs, and a lot of Bears fans are mad that they didn't keep Justin Fields.
Ah, man. Well, we'll see. It'll play out one way or another, right?
Here's the thing. If I'm Pittsburgh, right, Russell Wilson says he wants to sign a long-term deal with Pittsburgh, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm Russell Wilson, even if Russell Wilson plays good, it doesn't have to be elite. Say he leads you, obviously the Steelers fan, I want to win number 7. I want to win Super Bowl number 7.
Sure.
Do I think Russell Wilson will? No. But, okay, well, I take that back. I think we can win a Super Bowl, but it won't be because of Russell Wilson.
They'll ride the defense, and he just can't. Yeah, he'll limit mistakes. Yeah.
He'll be Jimmy Garoppolo from the 49ers. Just can't turn the ball over.
There you go.
But
Trent Dilfer when the Ravens won. I mean,
exactly. Yeah. That didn't work with Jimmy Garoppolo, though.
No.
I think you need a dynamic quarterback in today's game, and I think we have that in Justin Fields. Yes, we declined his 5th-year player option, but it's because you're going to try and sign him to a cheaper long-term deal.
Yeah.
The same with Najee Harris, too. You declined Najee Harris's 5th-year player option, but one, it's because, okay, if you do get rid of him, you got Jaylen Warren, who dude's a stud. That dude is a animal.
Yeah.
But if you do re-sign Najee Harris, you're going to try to do it for a cheaper long-term deal than what he was making. He was set to make almost $20 million.
Yeah. Yep.
You can sign him like a 4-year, $30 million deal. That's cheaper than what you signed him for.
Yeah.
As a first-round pick.
Right. And still get some production. And I think for some reason, it's just like, again, the Steelers franchise, like, I don't know, guys want to be there, man. It's a winning franchise. I mean, they've had 3 head coaches since the 60s. It's insane.
And
it's insane, Ben.
People that say, Mike Tomlin shouldn't be happy with going, 9-8 or, just over 500 every year. Take a look back and tell me the last time he had a all-around elite team.
It's been a while. And listen, do you know how
the last time he won a Super Bowl?
Yeah, it is
the last time.
Wildly difficult to be that consistent in the NFL. Yes, you can be happy with your bottomed out years being 9-8 and 10-7. Yeah, absolutely, you can be happy.
Exactly.
With that. I mean, look at the Browns. The Browns have had a winless season in the past. You know what I mean? Like come on. You know what I mean? It's not easy in the NFL to win at all.
And I tell people, I say, you look at all these teams, like, you guys had an elite offense with the Killer Bees. Our defense was also one of the worst in the league.
Yeah.
The Steelers had a season where they scored the most points in the NFL and gave up the most points in the NFL.
Yeah.
It's hard to win a Super Bowl doing that. Yeah,
Mike Tomlin's won a lot of games in spite of something else on that roster. It's not like some guys like, okay, maybe it's Belichick's doing. I mean, maybe he just was an elite talent, evaluator, whatever. But I mean, the Patriots always had plenty of talent on those rosters, right? Like,
for sure.
I don't know that the Steelers have necessarily had that talent consistently, but they just keep winning.
I agree with you. Obviously I'm a Steelers fan, but
listen, Belichick doesn't have a job and Tomlin still does. There's a reason for that.
Yeah. I mean, you know me. I'm a Steelers fan. Sometimes I'm biased. If you're a sports fan, you say you're not biased, you're lying.
No, you're always going to be biased at some point. Yeah.
Exactly. And
but I try not to be. I try to see it from both sides, And
that's the way I look at it. And if you look at the Browns, yes, the Browns might have more talent than Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you on the offensive side.
No, they do. The roster's it's better, but they don't get the same results.
But at the same time, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but I think I saw a stat that said last year the Browns defense gave up more total points than Pittsburgh's defense.
Probably. I wouldn't be surprised by that. I mean, they fell off. They fell like week 10, week 11, they fell off a little bit, right?
We gave up more total yards by a long shot. but we
Yeah.
weren't giving up as many points because Mike Tomlin's whole motto is when you get inside the 10-yard line, bend but don't break.
Yeah. And the
And
Browns
it's-
defense didn't play well on the road at all. I mean,
No.
at all.
And usually, you know the saying, defense travels.
Yep.
Their defense was non-existent on the road.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
It's weird.
I don't understand that problem. Maybe
No.
they'll fix it, maybe they won't, but I don't get it. I'm not sure.
But it'd be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see this year what happens because the Browns' back half of the schedule is pretty tough too, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the whole AFC North, I feel like is got a little bit of a rough ending to the year, but nobody has it like the Steelers. I mean, that's absolutely wild.
Yeah, you play 6. Here, let me look up their schedule real quick. You play, I think your 6 of your last 8 games are AFC North opponents.
Yeah, it's an absolute gauntlet at the end of the year.
Let's see here. You're Pittsburgh. You start the season with the Falcons, so that's probably a win.
We'll see.
Probably. Then you go to Denver. So you're at Atlanta, at Denver. And then you're home against the Chargers. That could be a good game.
Yeah.
But then you fast forward a couple weeks. Ravens, Browns, Bengals, Browns, Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs, Bengals. End your season.
Do they have a bye week in there or no?
We get our bye week between the Giants and Commanders.
Okay.
So you're playing the week of October 28th, and then we play the Commanders November 10th.
Oh my gosh! And then
so that's week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You get your bye week after week 8.
Okay.
So you got to play your final 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games without a bye week.
That's unbelievable. And that's gonna be a very physical run, man. The whole AFC.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, yes, the Bengals last year weren't good, right? But they were without Joe Burrow.
They're gonna be better.
You expect the Bengals this year? Yeah, you expect the Bengals this year to be better with Joe Burrow.
Yep.
But you look.
He
at
was
that
out
team.
so early. I mean, they didn't have a chance.
Yeah, you look at that stretch, right? Ravens and Browns is always physical.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
The Bengals, the Bengals games are always just good games because it's the Bengals. I mean, they're. Then you got to play the Eagles, who were in the Super Bowl a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Then you got to play the Ravens, who are the Ravens, signed Derrick Henry.
Yep.
And then on Christmas, you got to play the Kansas City Chiefs, the defending Super
Bowl. And good luck. They have Taylor Swift on their side. Good luck.
Right. Yeah. At least it's in Pittsburgh, though, so we have the hometown advantage. But
there you go.
That's a brutal schedule, though. I mean, if this year, I'll be happy with 9-8, 10-7.
Yeah.
Most years as a Steelers fan, I'm like, dude, like, how are we 9-8, 10-7? But this year, I'm okay with 9-8 and 10. I think this year 9-8, 10-7 gets you into the playoffs.
I think so too. And I think the Browns could very well miss the playoffs. I said it last year, and they barely, they.
If it wasn't for Joe Flacco,
yeah, but they would have missed the playoffs, right? If not for Flacco, they would have missed the playoffs. Can we say that? I mean, let's be honest.
I'd have to agree. No, I would have to agree. And I'm not saying it's just a Steelers fan, but I mean, PJ Walker and Dorian Thompson-Robinson, they weren't cutting it. I mean,
no, they were not going to be viable long-term solutions to that problem. No,
you won that Steelers game with DTR as your quarterback because Kenny Pickett couldn't hit the broadside of a barn door if you told him where it was at.
Yeah.
I mean,
and gave him a Jugs gun to do it. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you come out. I told you this. You come out in the second half of that Browns game. Jalen Warren rips one for 74-yarder, and you're thinking, okay, this game just turned on its head.
Yep.
And then the Steelers run the ball twice the rest of the game.
Yeah. Strange. Just a weird game.
But that was also Matt Canada, who.
Yeah. We know that.
We all know how that went. So
we know. And, I get it. Defense travels. The Steelers are going to have a tough defense. The Ravens are always going to be tough. I mean, this division, we'll do it on another show. I mean, we'll get through OTAs and we'll find out rosters before we try to pick division winners or whatever in playoff spots. But I don't see. I mean, this division is going to be so hard to win, right? Right? Like, sure. Oh my gosh, man! Listen, speaking of tough divisions, I just want to completely. I'm gonna switch gears on you. Did you have anything else to say about the Steelers or football in general?
Like you said, I just wanted to say that I think that whatever team stays the healthiest in our division is going to win it.
Yeah, that's probably
Whichever
it.
team can say the healthiest will probably win the division.
And you're going to
Because
have to get good quarterback play, and I
exactly.
worry that disqualifies the Browns. We'll see what Deshaun Watson does this year.
Maybe the Steelers too.
Yeah, maybe.
But I mean,
Maybe.
we went 9-8 last year with Kenny Pickett, and
It
Mitch
could be the
Trubisky,
Ravens
so.
and Bengals show. We might have to get used to watching that. But the Steelers have such a good defense. I think they're going to be able to make some noise.
But you just want to segue into some baseball?
Well, yeah, I was going to say. I mean, we know defense travels, right? But something that doesn't have to travel at all is the Guardians' offense, right? Doesn't matter where they play. They're really good at home. Do you know the Guardians have the best home record in baseball? They're 18 and 6 at home. Yeah.
Didn't know that.
And speaking of tough divisions as well, again, right here, not the division in baseball that you usually go to when you say, like, hey, this is probably the toughest division to win. It's usually the AL East, the NL East. For some reason, it's always the East. The AL Central is really, really good, man. You've got two teams right now. The Guardians have won 7 in a row. The Royals have won 7 in a row. Guardians are 9-1 over their last 10. The Royals are 8-2. They're a game and a half back. No one would have thought it would have been between the Guardians and the Royals, right? We thought the Twins and it seemed like the Twins are going to win that division. But, man, the Guardians are red hot. The Royals are really good. But let's talk about the Guardians because this show is about home cooking, right? A little regional flavor. We don't care about the Royals. Who cares about the Royals? Maybe they don't even care about the Royals in Kansas City. We're not going to talk about the Royals. No, the Guardians have been really good. And you got to look at, like, how have they been doing this? Like, they don't have an overwhelming roster, right? They don't have a roster that says that, hey, this team should be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in baseball right now, but that's what they've been so far.
Definitely. And I mean, if you look at it, you lose your best pitcher 2 games in the season with Shane Bieber.
Yeah.
Tanner Bybee hasn't been great. Logan Allen hasn't been great. He's got some
good starts, but yeah.
He has.
He's shut down the Braves. He completely shut the Braves down.
Yeah. Logan Allen hasn't been great. I mean, his last couple starts have been better.
Yeah.
Carrasco was not pitching well at all.
No.
He was getting shelled.
Physically going on with Carrasco, yeah.
But our ace is Ben Lively. That's kind of confusing, but I mean, hey, I'll take it.
Not as confusing as it was for the SNY broadcast who put him up there as Blake Lively. He's not Ryan Reynolds' wife. Like, that's not who Ben Lively is, but he has been pitching really well. So.
He has been.
Shout out to Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. Hi, if you're watching the show. I'm sure they are.
But the fact that the Guardians were able to maintain this pace on offense when you lose the hottest hitter in baseball, Steven Kwan.
Yeah.
Right? And Jose Ramirez was struggling. Now he's picked it up a lot over these last.
It's starting to warm up. And as it warms up, Ramirez typically starts to ramp up a little bit. So
he does. But you lose the best hitter in baseball in Steven Kwan.
Yeah.
And I will stand by that. The best hitter in baseball. Doesn't have a lot of power, but doesn't.
Kwan was hitting 353. Great average, right? We don't really see that often in baseball. He only has 3 home runs, but his OPS was up around 1,000. His OPS was 903 when he went down because of the on-base percentage. He's just a gamer. He's just like, he's kind of old school. He's kind of Tony Gwynn. Like, he's a tough out,
And I forget who
said it. And a gold glover, by the way.
Right. I forget who said it, but I think it was might have been Stephen Vogt that said, you guys, were, thrilled to have Lindor and Ramirez for, that stretch of runs that they went on.
Yeah.
And he said they always thrived off each other.
Yeah.
When one was playing well, they were both playing well. When one was playing bad, they were both playing bad. He's like, the way I look at Kwan, Jimenez, and Jose, he's like, when they're all hot, they're all hot.
Yeah.
He's like, but I'm going to throw this at you. He's like, Kwan goes down with an injury. He's like, and he goes, Jimenez is starting to get hot. Jose started to pick it up. Yeah. And it's like, these guys know when they need to pick it up for people that are, slacking.
Has anybody been better off the bench, by the way, than David? I mean, where did David Fry come from?
Wasn't he working at like McDonald's a couple weeks ago?
Maybe. I have no idea. Ben, the guy's hitting 360 with 6 home runs. His OPS is 1120 something. I don't know. It's up over 1100.
I was telling somebody at work. If he's still hot at the deadline, wouldn't be surprised if you see him maybe get moved for an arm.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know.
You're not gonna have Gavin Williams until at least after the All-Star break.
Yeah.
Because he's on the 60-day IL.
Yeah.
That gives you 2 months. So that's May. Well, he got hurt halfway through May, so June, July.
Yeah.
He's got to rehab. So you're thinking end of July, early August. And if your pitching starts to kind of be like your weak point, you're going to want to try and get an arm at the deadline.
Well, you got to keep an eye on Tristan McKenzie. Tristan McKenzie has walked 31 batters in 52 and a third innings pitched, man. By far the most of any of the starters.
I also think that's because of his torn UCL as well. I mean, that can't feel good to pitch with.
No, it can't. But he's just not himself. And if he starts missing spots like that, it's only a matter of time before he starts missing in the middle of the zone as opposed to out of the zone, right?
Yeah.
You got to keep an eye on him.
And I wanted to ask you this too.
Mm-hmm.
If you're him, do you get surgery in the offseason? Because you're gonna miss part of the season in general.
I mean, I don't know. It's such a hard decision. I'd have to know more about the injury, you know?
Or do you just pitch with a torn UCL for the rest of your career?
I don't know. I pitched with a torn labrum my entire career. I don't know. I'm the wrong one to ask, man. I have no idea. I don't know.
But
I didn't know I had a torn labrum. I knew something was wrong in my shoulder, but I didn't know, the extent.
I mean, and I want to ask you this. What's it going to take for the Guardians to make the improbable run and win the World Series? Like, what's it?
Okay. We talked about this, right? This is such a loaded question when you're looking at it from a Cleveland perspective. So I don't want to do that. I just want to look at it. If I just saw player A, player B, player C, right, and this was a roster and I was looking at stats, I would tell you that this team is not going to win anything in October without a legitimate ace. They need a legitimate frontline starter. They don't have one. They have some guys that have shown potential to possibly be able to be that guy 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 4 starts. But that's the problem. With a legitimate ace, you've got to have that guy out there. He's got to be that guy 5 out of 6 starts, right? Especially in October. He's got to be the guy. You got to know that's your stopper. I don't think the Guardians have a guy who as a starting from the starting pitching standpoint that this is the stopper, right? Ben Lively, we said it. He's had a couple of good starts. I think Tanner Bybee's had a couple really good starts, but he's also had a couple he's bottomed out a couple times. Tristan McKenzie, you don't know what you're going to get because of the elbow. They need a legitimate ace. I don't know that they have what it takes to add one at the deadline. I don't know. I'm not sure. So you may be looking at a team who will win the AL Central. And then, and disappointingly, I don't want to say this, but I mean, listen, I'm not throwing stones. I'm a Braves fan. This has happened to the Braves the last 2 years. You might be looking at a team who wins the division and then loses in the first round of the playoffs because they just don't have the firepower to match up in a short series, right?
Nope, I agree.
Like they're good enough consistently over a long time where they can stay here, right? But then other teams just seem to be able to, right? I don't know. I don't get it. Like the Phillies.
No, I agree.
So I don't know.
I agree with you. But I mean, if you look at the Rangers last year, I mean, they didn't really have an elite arm.
Jordan Montgomery.
Okay, they did, but I'm saying that's one. I mean, all you need is one, yes, but they also
it helps to have one. The Guardians have 0. It helps to have one, right?
They don't, but they also have the best offense in baseball.
Okay.
So, I mean, yes, you need one. I mean, and you're hoping Tanner Bybee can get back to what he was last year.
Right.
Because if he can, you got yourself an ace, and you got a shot at making a deep run. But if he can't,
you wish you had Shane Bieber. You really wish you had Bieber back.
You do.
I mean, good gosh, man.
Or even a healthy McKenzie.
Starts, Ben. I mean, what do you strike out 20?
Yeah, struck out 20, had 0 walks.
Oh my gosh. No, he walked 1. Yeah, you were way off. His control was terrible. He walked 1 guy. He was unbelievable. You wish you had Bieber back for sure.
Or even a healthy McKenzie.
Yeah. Oh yeah, a healthy McKenzie would be an ace. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, here's the thing though. Like you said, you don't know if we have what it takes to acquire an ace. I think we do.
You do.
You have a bunch of you have a bunch of top prospects in the minors, right? You have 18 shortstops.
Yeah.
You have 18 middle infielders.
Yeah. Shortstops are coveted.
And,
you're right.
I mean, of those middle infielders, you're not going to replace Andres Jimenez.
Yeah.
He's signed to a 7-year deal with Cleveland.
Yeah.
Brian Rocchio has started to heat up as your everyday shortstop. You don't want to just replace
Manzardo ever shows enough to be a trade piece? Is he ever going to start hitting to show enough to be a trade piece or no?
I don't think this year.
No. Yeah.
I don't think this year.
Yeah. I think they're intrigued by his potential too. I think he's got, I mean, it's not great right now. He's at 209. He hasn't hit his first home run yet. That doesn't mean anything. A slow start.
No, but he's also, I was watching the game last night. He's on a 6-game hitting streak. He's hit doubles in the last 6 games.
There you go. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's starting to, yeah.
It's starting to pick up. But I was telling people, I said, I think once Quan comes back, you'll see Jonathan Rodriguez sent back down to the minors,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you're just going to plug Quan back in to the lineup.
Yeah.
But
So what happens to David Fry? Does he where does he go?
Well, I mean, he'll still be your utility guy. I mean, he's not starting every day now, anyways.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Florial sitting there hitting 179 as the DH. I mean, do you DH him?
Yeah,
Do you DH Fry, or is he a guy that needs to be, playing defense to be engaged? I don't know.
Here's the thing: if Fry stays hot, I might be wrong. Maybe Jonathan Rodriguez picks it up, and maybe you send Esteban Florial down to AAA.
Yeah,
but I mean, I think this, like you said, this guard, and I tell people this. I wish Tito was here, because do you remember that Yankee series a couple years ago? After they lost, Tito in his press conference said, "We're building for a couple years from now for us to be really, really, really good."
Yeah.
Fast forward a couple years, you're 34-17 on a 7-game win streak.
Yeah.
And you're looking like one of the best teams in baseball, and you're thinking, man, I wish we had Tito here.
Yeah, and it's what's funny is something you said about was it who said it? Wait, was it Austin Hedges who said this? I thought you had brought this up to me earlier in the week.
Oh yeah. Do you want me to say it?
Yeah, please do. Yeah, please do.
So Austin Hedges said, we're treating every game like a playoff game. He's like, because as the season goes on, he's like, you're going to get to October and you're going to look up and you're going to see some teams who miss the playoffs by a game and a half, 2 games. And he's going to and you're saying, crap, those games came back in April and May. Yeah. He's like, you can't take a game off. He's like, yeah, we had a skid. He's like, but we bounced back. He's like, we know that we know that to win a World Series, he's like, you got to be great over a long period of time.
Yeah. Listen, the Guardians have been famous since they were the Indians. They've been famous for getting off to a very slow start and warming up as the weather warms up. They're hot this year before. I mean, we'll see. Maybe they go the other way. Maybe they don't. As you look at the roster, you kind of wonder, like, can they really sustain this? Just with the starting pitching, you look at the names and it's like, okay, there's no one overwhelming. Tanner Bibby's got, some potential. McKenzie's hurt, like you said. Logan Allen has won some games. He hasn't pitched particularly well. I mean, he's got an ERA of almost 5.
But he's also getting like 9 runs of support.
Yeah. You got the offense, playing really well, but it seems like they might be hitting over their heads. You worry, but the thing is, like, they just keep doing it. They keep getting a little bit better. Like, every week, it's like a different guy wakes up a little bit and they get a little bit better. And you're like, well, they just seem so consistent. I mean, this is a good baseball team. It's a really good baseball team. And they're so good at home. Listen, they're 18-6. If you're watching the show, it's summer. Well, it's not summer, but school's out for my kids anyway. It's May 25th. It's Memorial Day weekend. Get out, man. Buy some tickets. Go to Progressive Field and watch this Guardians team play baseball. I mean, get down there and support the team, because I know they've got some fans, but it's going to be a great summer in Cleveland, I think, to watch the Guardians. It's going to be fun. So.
And we talk baseball all the time, and we talk about, it's so crazy how you look at all these managers that were catchers and why their teams are so dang good.
Yeah.
And it starts to wonder, like, even if you look at Austin Hedges, how valuable is a good catch? Don't get me wrong, Austin Hedges can't hit to save his life, right?
No, but it's about more than that sometimes. Yeah.
He is. He's a leader. He's a He's a motivator.
Fans don't see what goes on in the clubhouse. And I think because of that, it gets severely underrated. Like, when you have a guy that's like an emotional leader for a clubhouse, or a guy that can bring a group of 25 or 26 guys together and keep them, it's not always a manager, but they can keep them focused on a path, right? Like, sometimes it's a player. And it's almost always a catcher, Ben. Like, we talk about it. Like, it's almost always a catcher. That's it's the most important position in baseball, in my mind. And it's not necessarily about having a catcher that hits 340 with 55 home runs and 160 RBIs or whatever, and wins a Gold Glove and throws everybody out. It's just about having that high character guy back there, that high moral guy who's a leader, and can just right the ship when things start to feel a little off. Like, you got to have that guy.
Sure,
you got to have him.
Sure.
You got to have him. And the Guardians, listen, the Guardians have multiple guys on the roster like that, and they have a manager like that. I think that's a really good recipe for success.
And I tell people, I can't remember what game it was, but Austin Hedges went up to Stephen Vogt and said, "Hey," he goes, "let me bunt." He goes, "We got nothing going." He goes, "They won't expect it." He goes, "Let me bunt." He goes, "I'm going to get an infield single." Sure enough, gets up there, bunts one down the third base line, gets an infield single. Guardians go on to win the game.
It's a little
Now,
spark, man.
if you're playing third base, you're not expecting Austin Hedges to bunt
No,
when they got nothing going.
no, not at all.
But it's stuff like that though. Like you look at him get the bunt, and he's not fast, right?
No.
He's probably considered slow.
Yeah.
But you look at the dugout, and they're all jumping up and down, cheering, taking their hats off, and it's like, dude, a guy like that, like you said, they can bring a group of 25, 26 men together.
Yep.
And all be happy.
Yep.
And just keep that same energy. That
It's
goes
underrated.
a long way.
It's so underrated. I don't think the average fan really appreciates the value of a guy like that on a roster. Like I said, you just don't see it in the clubhouse. So as a fan, you see a guy hitting whatever hitting, whatever, 140, whatever. But that's not what it's about with him. It's about handling the staff and keeping guys sometimes, just within themselves. Like sometimes with pitching, like you get out of your groove, you get out of your whatever, you know what I mean? And a good catcher always knows when and what to say, right? To come out and be like, hey man, like whatever. They know what to say to get it right. Your guys. It's different for everybody,
It is.
And a good catcher always seems to have a handle on that, even if they're not in the game. I mean, I think you can see Hedges sometimes. I bet if you watched him not in the game, I bet if you just watched him in the dugout, I bet you could see him like going down to pitchers and putting his arm around him and talking to him, right? And saying whatever it takes,
Speaking on that point, yesterday against the Angels, the Guardians hit 3 home runs in a row. They went back to back to back.
Yeah.
They went Jose Naylor, David Fry.
Yeah.
And they showed a clip of the dugout, and Austin Hedges has his hands on like the railing, and he's shaking it like the Ultimate Warrior.
Right.
And he's like screaming, and he looks at the guy next to you and goes, "I told you so!" Like points at him and says, "Like I told you so."
It's
and
awesome.
They're all getting fired up, and it's like it's just like even last year with the Rangers, he didn't play at all in the postseason.
Yeah.
Did not play at all.
Yep.
But he was there. There's that veteran that knew how to keep guys together.
Yep. Yep.
And I think that's going to go a long, long way this year. I really do.
I do too. I think it always goes a long way to have a guy. Remember Mike Napoli? Mike Napoli wasn't necessarily, he wasn't a catcher, but he was like the emotional leader. He was the heart and soul of those teams, right? Party at Naps, right? Like it was like he was like the rallying point.
They talked about that too.
Yeah, I just think it's even more special that it's a catcher right now. It's Austin Hedges is kind of like Mike Napoli right now. Like he's the guy. Like he's like, the 7th year, 8th year senior fraternity brother that lives in the house, and he's like still knows how to have a good time, but he's also mature enough to like keep everybody on the right path, right? So he knows, like he walks this fine line. He's not like, it doesn't seem like a goody two shoes. It's not like a whatever you want to say, a narc or whatever, but he'll keep you on the right path and also have a little bit of fun. It's like, it's like having me as a dad, man, right? Like it's the best of both worlds. All right. Listen, on that note, I think it's probably time to get out of here.
I just want to say one last thing.
Go ahead. Say it.
There was a clip of Austin Hedges on a podcast. I think it was with Chris Rose. I think.
Not on our podcast though. That's
no
offensive. Okay. That's offensive.
But he was talking about how I think it was Shane Bieber start against Seattle when he got hurt. He went out for a mound visit, and Shane Bieber said, "My arm's done. It's shot." He goes, "I can't go anymore." Yeah. And he said Austin Hedges just like felt like that emptiness in his stomach. He's like, dude, you're 2-0 with 20 strikeouts. Yeah. He's like, what happened? And Bieber's like, I don't know. He's like, I'm done. And it's like, dude, it's like when you're a catcher and you get that feeling in the middle of a game.
Yep.
And now you got to try and figure out how to manage your staff without your ace.
Yeah.
And the fact that they've been able to.
Yep. It
just shows you that. And but the Guardians technically have one last thing. Guardians technically have 3 catchers on the roster with Bo Naylor, David Fry, and Austin Hedges.
Right.
With an injury like that, with a guy like Hedges, I think it just speaks to who he is, because all these other catchers can rely on him to be like, hey, what do we do in this situation? We got to change our whole game plan. Like, what do we do?
It's like having a second manager. If you're Stephen Vogt, you've got another manager down there at the end of the bench that can, while you're doing the logistical stuff, you can handle that.
Yeah, and I, like you said, I mean, I think Yadier Molina would make a great manager. I really do.
Yeah.
I really do.
I do
I think
too.
Hedges will make a good one too when he retires.
And I told you before, I think Molina would just intimidate his team to wins, man.
Right.
I really think that would be a thing with Molina. I think
He'd
he would
get
just
scared of him.
yeah, just 105-7 every year because of the intimidation factor, just of having Molina up there on the top of the bench, man. But whatever.
Right.
Well, hey, like I said, it was good to be back, man. It's good to talk sports
was.
with you, even if we still don't have a name for the show. We're never going to have a name for the show. With a sports show with no name, I love it. But again, we have names. I'm Chad. That's Ben. And listen, please, guys, we appreciate you watching, sticking with us. Listening to us talk about sports. Engage with us. I mean, comment on any of this stuff. If you want to,
Please.
let us know what you think the Guardians need. Let me know if you think the Falcons, taking Michael Penix was a great decision. Let me know if you think J.J. McCarthy should have gone number 1 overall. I mean, tell us what you think in the comments. Remember, most importantly, like and subscribe. It helps us grow. Eventually, it'll help us bring you a better show because you deserve that. We love you. We appreciate you watching. Ben, as always, man, it was good to see you again, buddy. And we'll be back soon on the sports show with no name.
Peace.
Peace out, guys.